Okay, sorry for the interruption. Part two of the sexual history inventory. So, anyway, I am the youngest of five, as I said. Very Catholic household. My sister entered the convent when I was a year old, and my mother, for years, believed that my brother would be the first Irish pope, blonde haired Irish pope. They were 19, 18, 16, and 12 when I was born. And so my life, in terms of sexual messages, was that they were almost non existent. When I can remember the first time that I got my menstrual cycle, my mother called my sister and said, "Come over here and explain this to her." Um, Growing up in a Catholic school, I was a bit of a rebel and went through 12 years of Catholic education. I remember singing the Hall and Oates song "Did It in a Minute" and getting in trouble in seventh or eighth grade. Um, so highly influenced by all of those things. My first sexual experience, I dated a lot in high school, guys, but I really consider my first sexual experience to be when I was a freshman in college, when I met and fell in love with a woman who lived on the first floor of Immaculata Hall at Marywood. Matter of fact, some of you know this. I have actually moved back into my freshman dorm room in Immaculata 202. So there's a lot of bittersweet memories in that building. So that was what I consider my first sexual experience. That nothing that happened in high school with the guys that I dated really was meaningful for me, or do I consider a sexual experience? Am I currently sexually active? Yes, I have a partner. Her name is Jeannie. We've been together almost 3 years. She lives out towards Western Pennsylvania, so we don't see each other as often as I would like. But our hope is to, at one point in time in the not so distant future, for her to move to the Scranton area, to Dixon City, where I live. Um, are your sexual partners men, women, or both? I have only been sexually active once in my life with a male. Period of my life when I was trying to figure out if this was fully who I was, or maybe was I bisexual. But I do identify as gay or lesbian. I generally prefer the term gay rather than lesbian, but both are comfortable to me. Um, in the 12 months, risk, since I have been with only one partner in the last 12 months, I don't perceive myself to be at risk for STDs, although I am not so naive to think that, things happen in relationships that could put you at risk for STDs. And my current partner, when she was married for a number of years, did have affairs outside of her marriage. So I am, I guess, sensitive to that possibility, happening. Have I ever been diagnosed with an STD? Only trichomonas, and I'm not even sure I'm saying that correctly, which is an STD that can be contracted not just through sexual contact, but being in exposed areas such as like a bathroom toilet seat. Um, are you currently trying to conceive or father a child, practicing birth control? I was in a relationship from the age of about 28 or 29 until 41 with someone who did not want to have children. And so though that period of my life when I could have had children, it wasn't possible because of the relationship I was in. When that relationship ended about 7 years ago, that is when the door opened up for me to become a foster parent. And although it wasn't something I intentionally thought of doing immediately after that relationship ended, it fulfilled a need for me, I think, of being a parent, and that I always wanted children in my life. Uh, Problems related to sexual intercourse. I will just say I'm in menopause right now. I'm 48 years old, and that does have an impact, certainly, in your sexual desire. And I don't think we talk enough about that and women in menopause. The good part being that you no longer have your menstrual cycle, the bad part being the hormonal changes. Then it asks a few questions. Oh, it asks if you've ever had unwanted sex. And I will share with you that I am in recovery. I don't know if I said that in the early video, but that I have just about 5 years sober after I'd had a number of years of not drinking. And then I drank for a couple of years thinking I didn't have a problem. And during that time, after that long term relationship, I dated. And there was a night where both of us had had too much to drink and we had been fighting, and the other person pushed to have sexual relations, to have sex, and I didn't really want to, and it was almost a sense of her making me feel like this was going to work if we had sex, and I felt that it was unwanted in that moment. So while it's not nearly to the extreme of rape, or childhood sexual abuse, it gave me at least a small degree of insight into that feeling of being pressured into having sex and not really wanting to. In terms of orgasms, I like orgasms, whether it be by myself or in a sexual relationship. And we can talk, through this course, we'll talk about some of the sexual dysfunctions, when people don't have orgasms, and orgasmic disorders, and just orgasms for women versus men, and the comfort of talking about that with our clients. So, how comfortable was I answering these questions? Very comfortable. Pretty much, if you want to know something else, I'm comfortable to share. And how comfortable am I asking these questions to a client? Again, I'm very comfortable. My first kind of full time social work job was working with persons with HIV disease at a time, in the early 90s, when, we didn't really know a lot. I mean, we had a pretty good idea about how HIV was transmitted, but there was a lot of stigma. And so helping people to be comfortable to talk about their HIV status, to talk to them about protected and unprotected sex and getting pregnant and other kinds of sexual acts that some of the gay men, engaged in through anal intercourse. Pretty much, I've heard it all. There isn't anything that you could tell me that would shock me, and I am comfortable, with talking about this. And I'm passionate that we need to be comfortable to talk about this. My first job was in a group home for developmentally disabled individuals, and we had three low functioning adults. And one of them was a client who had been at Penhurst Institution for all of his adult life. He had entered when he was about 18 or 20, and he was in his early 60s when Penhurst was court ordered closed, and he came to reside in this group home. And he had the worst scars on his entire body that I've ever seen on a human being. From you could clearly see where he had been whipped for a number of years. And he was very afraid of his bedroom. And so it was unclear to me whether he ever slept, because you would, send him in there at night, close the door, and when you open the door in the morning at 5 a.m., he would run out of there as though he had been awake. So anyway, he would sit in the rocking chair, kind of in a common area that we had a desk in. And we had set two rocking chairs across from the desk. And he would sit there and he would put his hands between his legs, not down his pants, just like between his legs and his jeans or sweatpants, whatever he had on. And he would rock in the rocking chair. And the only way you knew what was going on was after a period of a few minutes, he would go, and he'd close his eyes and his face would get a little flushed. And that is the only way we knew that he was masturbating. And people got really freaked out about that. There were young women who worked in the group home, and some felt okay about it. Some felt, actually, it was an older staff person, female, who felt really uncomfortable about it. And I was an advocate to say, people were like, he needs to go to his bedroom and do that. It's not appropriate. He's doing it in front of people. The other two residents in the house were lower functioning than he was, IQs in the 20s, 30s, nonverbal. And my point was that's where he feels comfortable. He was a very anxious man. He was a man that sometimes would act out, throw things, bang things, and that if that was something that felt good to him. It was likely that it was a release of energy, and he wasn't going to do it in his bedroom. So my advocacy was that we, as the staff in the house who worked an 8-hour shift, should just get up and move to another room if we were, when that we noticed that that was happening. Now, again, I've worked with clients who you would take them down the mall and they'd be putting their hands down their pants. That's different. This was in the privacy of his own home. He wasn't doing something that was sexually explicit, in the sense that he was whipping it out, but it was stimulating to him. So I welcome some feedback on that if you have any. You can post it or chat it, or just share it with me. So we are wrapping up week 1, where we just talked about some sexual screening tools and how comfortable we are asking questions and our familiarity with sexual screening tools. There was some good posts about the article, human sexuality, as a subfield for social work. And I like to read what you all wrote and shared about the importance of this within our profession, because I don't think we give it enough justice. Next week, we'll be moving on to the first 3 chapters. We're going to have a chat. I'm going to send out some instructions on how to set up the Hangouts in Google, as well as an invitation to all of you. So watch for that in the next, either this evening or tomorrow. And then I will post times for you to sign up for the chat. And if you have any questions, please shoot me a text. Thanks, and have a great night.